Well, this time of year, it can be pretty common to see people who love the outdoors loading up on corn. That corn is usually put in what are known as deer feeders. On this week's Next to Nature, Dr. John Long explains why it's important to keep the feeders clean and dry.
All right, everybody, welcome back to this week's Next to Nature with Dr. John Long, and brought out the feeder, not for us, but wildlife of all types are attracted to feeders like this one.
Right. A lot of people term it as a deer feeder, and that's really primarily what you use it for. I have this one out just to observe wildlife because, as you say, multiple types of wildlife use it. In fact, I had turkeys here the other day using the feeder for the corn that comes out of it. Of course, deer as well. That's used by many hunters in the state now, that they feed their deer corn or other type of mineral supplements. Very effective as far as feeding wildlife.
No doubt. I bet some squirrels would like it too.
Oh, they do.
So when you're looking at deer feeders, is there a certain type that works better than others, or does it depend just on your need and what you're willing to fill it up with?
Well, first of all, you need to look at what's legal as far as feeding wildlife. There are laws that are enacted for that reason, and one of the reasons is because of disease transmission. You think of feeding an animal and they're in the same proximity as other animals or the same animal, diseases can be spread by corn going moldy. There's a thing called an aflatoxin that's developed, so that can be harmful to wildlife, and you want to make sure that that's not occurring. You need to make sure that you're using very clean corn. You don't want it to have that aflatoxin on it, and you can see it'll look kind of black and things of that nature. So keep it dry, keep it in a really dry location where you're not getting it wet and then sticking it in a feeder.
Well, I was going to say it's good to make sure that top is secure.
That's right. I use a ratchet strap on this one just to make sure, because you'll have other animals that are smart enough to open a lid, believe it or not, and crawl inside. And
raccoons come to mind.
Yeah, they can probably eat till they're fat and can't get out, like Winnie the Pooh. You know? So you got to be careful of that. But as far as the feeder is concerned, spin cast feeders are really good because they really spread the food out, and you won't get that close proximity feeding for the most part during that time. So,
and what kind of maintenance do you have to do on these things?
Really, you want to keep them clean. Clean it before the season. Again, make sure your corn's dry. Make sure it's a good type of corn to use. I use a larger kernel of corn. Just that's out personal preference. There are smaller type grains or things of that nature. I personally don't do protein supplements, but people use them all the time in other feeders. Just corn is what I use. It's cheap and just as effective. So that's what I do.
And is there a good location you want to have these set up?
Well, it all depends on what you're trying to achieve. Like I said, front yard, you put it in your front yard and you can see all types of wildlife using the feeder. Obviously, if you want to hunt, really no said location. Normally, wildlife will find it very easily. I've seen turkeys in locations that I haven't seen turkeys before. When they find the feeder, they'll come right to it and utilize it. So birds also, other birds like smaller birds, I've seen smaller birds use it. So like I said, it's not even for large animals all that much. I mean, you could say that it is primarily, I guess, but smaller birds, smaller animals use it as well. So it's a very good attractant, and you can get a lot of enjoyment out of just watching the wildlife.
No doubt. And you can also set up a game camera nearby to see who's coming to visit.
That's exactly right. That's such a good point to make is, if you don't see it, then you can have a camera out and you can look at it later. So
check on your visitors.
Yeah,
All right.
Right.
All right. Thanks, Dr. Long. Thank you for joining us this week on Next to Nature.